So welcome everybody to the APTA board meeting sort of summary call. We were very happy to finally have an in-person meeting at the Fairmont Country Club in Chatham this year. I want to thank Blake Anderson for hosting us. But we didn't Zoom our meeting like we did last year. So this was sort of a way for the APTA for us to sort of share with all of you sort of the highlights from last season. And we do have a really great story to tell, which I will let Amin tell you all later in the presentation, and then talk to you guys about what we talked about and discussed at the board meeting, what we want to do going forward. So we thought this is a really great way to sort of kill two birds with one stone, so to say. You can, the agendas, this will be pretty quick. I mean, we really want to, if you don't mind saving your questions for the end, we'll briefly run you through financials and a couple of highlights, and then welcome open discussion at the end of the presentation. All right, so listen, as I said, we had a great board meeting. We've got 14 board members from across the country. We welcomed 4 new board members this year in May. Laura James from Denver, Ben McKnight from Chicago, Mandy Newell from Rochester, and Ann Waldron from here in Fairfield County. So we had 14, we didn't have everybody there due to some COVID related issues, but we got a lot accomplished. And I just want to take this opportunity to recognize our APTA staff, because not only do we have an awesome, an amazing board of super dedicated and smart and passionate volunteers, but the APTA staff is really what makes this organization go. So Amin Kaduri, our CEO, Ann Sheedy, our executive director, our IT director, Isabel Caban, our senior writer and editor, Mindy Pike. We've got our membership and tournament chair, which I'm sure most of you have had some interaction with, Deb Scully, our web admin, Jill Mark, and I actually see our newest member who is going to help us out with some part-time bookkeeping, Regina Feeney. I think she jumped on the call. So we are incredibly lucky to have this group of people help run this organization. So I just want to make sure that you all are aware of all the people that take so much time and do such a good job for us. So with that, why don't I turn it over to you, Amin, and you can walk us through our historical financials and our budget for next year.
Great, thanks, Tiernan. So we'll just start off with membership. And this is really, this is the good story to tell here. We grew our membership a little over 20% this year, 21.5% on top of the 23% growth last year. And so very excited about that. The biggest drivers of growth were 3 of the biggest leagues in the country requiring APTA membership for the first time. That was the New Jersey Men and Women's League, as well as the Fairfield County Men's League. The Kansas City League also required membership for the first time. So that's really what's been driving our membership growth for the past couple of years. But in addition to these new leagues coming on and requiring everyone to be an APTA member, what was also really astounding was the organic growth from the existing leagues. Chicago Men's League, the largest league in the country, grew 15%. Boston and Long Island, both men and women, grew 20%. Rochester, 35%. Philadelphia, 14%. Pittsburgh, 10%. These are all large leagues growing organically. So we really weren't sure what to expect the year after COVID, whether we would keep, the growth and the players would stay in the leagues, and it looks like we've kept a lot of them, and we're just excited about this trajectory. So that's the membership profile. We do have a couple new leagues, existing and new leagues, that are going to be requiring APTA membership. Will be full APTA leagues next year, and that's Washington, D.C., and also the Southwest Chicago Women's League. So excited about that. So I'll just run through 4 slides quickly, our financials. We budgeted about $940,000 on the top line. We came in close to 1.1 million, so about 150,000 greater than expected. And that was really driven by league membership as well as individual memberships, which came in a lot larger than we would have thought. There were a lot more tournaments this year, a lot of new tournaments this year, and so that might have helped drive some of that as well. So really driven by membership, though, on the top line. And our expenses, we budgeted about about 1.1 million. We came in about 1 million. Half of that savings was really a live stream, came in a lot lower than we expected. And we also cut back on some discretionary items through the year. So all in, we ended up beating our budget by about $250,000 for the year. We had budgeted a fairly large loss operating loss. We came in with a gain. We still have negative cash flow, but cash flow was only negative by 125,000, not 400,000. And the reason our cash flow is so negative, this includes the grants and loans that we give out. And that was about $150,000 worth of loans this season and about 80,000 in grants. And John McElhaney will go into a little more detail about that. But the timing for the 21-22 season, about $230,000 went out to fund public access facilities. This is what the APTA balance sheet looks like. The actual here, we finished about 1.1, close to 1.1 million. Most of that is operating cash. We also have the light blue part here is our endowment, which we try not to touch. It's really the operating cash that funds both our operations as well as our grants and loans program for now. So we had budgeted that to come in closer to 700,000. It came in a little over $1 million. And you can see what our budget is for next year. And with that, I will turn it over to John McElhaney, our board member who runs the Grants and Loans Committee. And John, you might need to unmute yourself.
There we go. Thought Damien had that. Great. I'd just like to say that corresponding with the growth in the game and programs looking for more playing time and membership growth that you went over, the Grants and Loans program has grown correspondingly. So it's really been a robust growth through the past few years. We're really happy about that. In fact, the numbers on the slide that you're presenting shows that we've given out $480,000 since 2019. That's a mix across 15 projects, 28 courts getting supported, and it's 275,000 in grants and 205,000 in loans in terms of mix. So that's over the 3-year period. And this past year, we had $215,000 was awarded, 175 in grants, 40,000 in loans, supporting 9 projects and construction of 12 courts and other facility enhancements. So really big numbers. In fact, the 215 is the largest number in the history of the grant and loan program. And that's double last year, which was 105. So these awards we're really happy about. And I'd say to all league heads and members out there on the call that if you know of projects that are coming up in your area, please reach out to your representative, which is on our website. We have regional representatives around the country to help, or contact myself. And these are projects that are supporting our mission, which is to try and make paddle more accessible and affordable and grow the game. So more than happy to move forward and help you in that way. And this year we have a budget allocation to do another number like the past year. So really ready with the funds and looking to help folks grow the game and make it available so all can enjoy it like we all do today.
Great. Thank you, John. Just a couple more slides just to summarize this past season. This past season was the first year of the APTA Tour and APTA Cup. The APTA Tour had, was basically the extension, growing the prior Grand Prix format into a larger tour. We had 16 events on tour this past year. We streamed 10 of them. There was $115,000 of prize money raised locally. And the APTA kicked in another $20,000 from our sponsorship money to help boost the prize money for the 2 Midwest Grand Prix. We thought the board felt that the tour was a success and that we would stick with it. This coming year, you probably have all seen the email already. We've got 14 events, including nationals, 4 Grand Prix, and 9 other events. All events will be both men and women this year. We had a few single-sex events last year. The other change, all Grand Prix are going to be played, we're going to have a minimum of 32 draw and will be played over 2 days. That's a change from this past year. We're trying to make all of these draws bigger. In fact, we don't have an event on tour this year that will be smaller than a 24 draw. And so that's also a change. The prize money raised locally, again, not by the APTA, raised locally by the tournament directors, is going from 115,000 up to 150,000 this year. The APTA is going to continue to support the 2 Midwest Grand Prix for 10,000 each, and we're going to stream 13 of the 14 tour events at this point. And the APTA Cup, we are going to keep the same as this past year, which is the season-long race, and that the APTA puts $40,000 towards. And again, the $60,000 the APTA is putting up towards prize money all comes out of sponsorship money that we're able to raise. So that's the APTA Tour and Cup. Probably the most, I think, exciting event of the year, 2 events of the year this past year were Team Nationals. We had About 300 women and close to 200 men participated the first week in April. 300 women convened in Chicago at Exmoor, and the 200 men at Fiddler's Elbow in New Jersey. And the APTA board is just super thrilled about this event, how big it was. This is really offering President's Cup type play to everyone in the country. The camaraderie, the fun, the competition. It was really exciting to see. There were a lot of people who traveled from the East to go play in Chicago. There were people all up and down the East Coast who played in New Jersey, which was great to see. Chicago and New Jersey are likely to continue to host next year. We'll flip-flop where the men and the women play. So the men will be in the Midwest in Chicago next year, and the women will be on the East Coast. And the APTA is putting funds behind, making sure these events are really memorable events that everyone wants to go to every year. And so we think those numbers of 500 could grow significantly this coming year. And in fact, so big that we may ask 2 different venues in New Jersey to host team nationals. In addition to the team nationals, we had 17 different PTI national championships. 400 men, 300 women participated across those events. Sam Byram had a big role in helping organize all of these events. He's raised his hand to do it again, which we really appreciate. So we are going to rotate where all of those specific individual events were, so that we move them around from region to region. But we're excited to offer these national championships at every skill level again this coming year. And then probably the biggest thing that came out of our board meeting was the board felt like we've got a good story to tell. We just need to do a better job of telling it and getting and reaching our membership. And we had a partnership with My Paddle this past season. They captured and created a bunch of videos for us. But anyone who's not familiar with My Paddle, they've just done an amazing job with their videos, video lessons, their social media presence, their weekly email, and they're really good at it. And so we're pretty thin staffed here. So we decided to bring on My Paddle in a much bigger role. They're going to take over all of our social media platforms for us. They're going to continue to create really great content for us. And they're going to help us with the migration of our magazine content to a bi-monthly email product. So all of the content that you've seen and enjoyed in the magazine will still be there. It'll now just be going out via email, through our site, through league websites, and through our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And My Paddle is going to have a big role in helping us do all that. And so that's really probably the biggest change that came out of the meeting. And with that, I will turn it back over to Tierney.
Yeah, just to summarize, you saw our membership numbers. Our membership has almost doubled since 2016. Thanks to Amin and a lot of people on our board and our staff. And so we're obviously in a strong financial position due to our membership revenue. And I think the real thing that came out of the board meeting was, how, since we have so many more members, how do we continue to serve you, our members, and improve our relationship, figure out what you guys want, and bring you more services and more value-added services from the APTA. So we're constantly, reinvesting in PTI. Damian Johnston and his PTI algorithm committee is always looking to make that better. We obviously, Amin and I and many other board members, spend a lot of time with our leagues and league leaders so we can improve league play as well as league level tournaments. We have calls like this, along with our very active Slack chain. If you're not on it, you need to get on it, to connect everybody, whether you're an APTA league or not, but just to bring best practices to everyone. John McElhaney, who's our treasurer and head of our grants and loans, has done a fantastic job of sort of professionalizing and streamlining our grants and loans process. And as you saw, we doubled what we did last year, and we want to continue our investment in grants and loans. Amin talked about the APTA tour, which was a big success. We're going to do that again this year. And as he said, the biggest change or biggest strategic investment really is going to be broadening our relationship with My Paddle. So I'm really excited to see how we, continue to connect with you all and bring you all great content. And I think what's really important is that we get feedback from you all, right? We really, we're here for you, our members. And so, we're trying a lot of new things. And so we just really want your feedback and your thoughts. So with that, I mean, that's really the end of the formal presentation, and open it up for questions. Oh, and Damien told me, sorry, the Slack chain is really for league leaders, but if, it's really for league sort of heads of leagues. But if you guys, Amin, Damien, my call, email, we need feedback. Our information is, I think you guys all have that, but thank you, Damien.
Tiernan, this is Sean Richardson in Cleveland. Can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Sean. How are you?
Hi, good evening. So I missed the first few minutes. I was in and out with connectivity, and I know John gave a report. But I'd like to give the voice of the recipient of the grant money. As many people know, Flats Paddle was a large recipient of support from the APTA. We are overwhelmed by your generosity and wanted to offer a thanks to all of you, including the second round of funding, which was really above and beyond this winter when we were in a bit of a pickle, just based on COVID delays and based on difficulty getting material. You really stepped up and helped us. So John, I don't know if you covered this, but we had our grand opening last weekend. I want to thank Ann and John for participating and offer just finally a couple of proof points. We have 101 paid members. We've overachieved what we ever thought would be possible in the first 5 months of operation. And interestingly, the first third, I knew them. They were the usual suspects. But the second third, the last 70 people, we're all asking ourselves, who in the heck are these people? Well, they came through. There were some of 300 people that have come through clinic and free play. And so with your help, we're really achieving our collective objective of growing the game to new audiences. And so we'll be forever grateful to you for getting us on the map and letting us grow. And success to us will be to get to 200 members over the next year, which of course I'll happily report out to you. We'd like to be a host site for future events. And also, Geography of Cleveland has no access to paddle. So a thank you from the user and recipient base to the entire board.
Hey, Sean, Peter Lauer from Atlanta. We've talked a lot about what you guys have done, and to us, you guys, us broadly, the board and others, like the best practice in a hell of a successful project all the way through to where you are today. It's impressive to watch and keep up the great work. It's really cool.
So we're going to try and sequence that DNA, Peter, and make it available to anybody. It would be do Karen, the gentleman, and I, nothing would be better than to play this forward. So many of you know Karen. She is kind of the secret sauce to all this. She and I are memorializing the how-tos that will need to be specialized for any geography. But what are some of the key ingredients to get a project like this off the ground? We can't wait to put this into access for you and anybody else you come across.
That's great. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, Sean, this is one of the stories that I think we want to make sure for those of you who don't know about the Cleveland Flats. I mean, I think this is sort of the greatest thing to happen to public paddle for as long as I've been in the game. So, Sean, you guys are, in my opinion, marketing geniuses. And we really, in terms of best practices, as Peter says, want to use your what you guys have done as a framework and a template for other people going forward. And I think talking about My Paddle, I mean, we want to publicize your story, because if we can replicate what you guys have done across the country, it will do so much for the growth of paddle. So it is mutual admiration and thanks for sure.
I'd just like to mention, congratulations to that team, and that we're starting to work with Sean and his team on helping to socialize this, and they've been very generous with their time. But a key thing here also to keep in mind for folks is, on top of getting the game to be more publicly accessible, the Flats is embarking upon a youth mentoring program to serve the greater community, and to provide a leadership and exposure to the sport and mentoring from adults with young people. And I think that's just the icing on the cake to a great story already.
Is it, when you say that too, John, is it young people like disadvantaged, young people and, or is it Shaker Heights?
It is. It is, Peter. I'm going to send a photo to John taken this week of a very diverse group of young people that were playing on our courts. But yes, we intend to hit the disadvantaged youth community, much the way programs like tennis and squash have done ahead of us. We're going to introduce folks to this game too. And John, while I had my hand out in terms of needing money from the APTA, I did let you win a lot of matches in January and February. No more. You now are just like another opponent. I'm going to beat you to a pulp.
Bring it on, baby.
I'd turn quick there, Sean. Oh, wow. Anyway.
Thanks again, Sean, for that. Are there any other questions from anyone? Please. There's probably going to be a lot of people watching the replay, so the more questions, the better.
I might have missed this in the beginning. It's Regina. What is the total membership right now?
It's about 29,000.
Wow. Well done. Thank you.
Yeah, up from like 16,000 in 2016 or close to it. I mean, it's been incredible.
Where are you seeing the biggest growth coming from? What parts of the country?
So the growth is, our membership growth has really come from two different places. Inorganic growth, that's entire leagues joining the APTA for the first time. That's what happened with New Jersey men and women in Fairfield County. But then the organic growth, it really was everywhere. Like I at the beginning of the call, I mentioned the Chicago Men's League, which had about 5,500 players in it, grew 15% this past season, which is just, so it's now well over 6,000 players in that league. So, but that happened almost everywhere. So I don't think it's really any one region. My thought is that courts 3 years ago, prior to COVID, were still growing 5% a year, but the courts were often underutilized in a lot of places. And I think COVID changed that. I think the story that probably every one of you on this call has heard is the last 2 years, it's been hard to get court time. It's much more difficult than it was pre-COVID. And that's now creating more need for courts. And speaking with the 4 court manufacturers, they're pretty much booked out, for many months. But it's not any one region. I will say Chicago sounds like it's going to add over 20 courts again between last season and this coming season. So, they just have an incredible park district set up there that really invests in courts in addition to all their private clubs. But it's really pretty broad based where we're seeing the growth. To be honest, it's pretty much every area.
Thanks.
Hey, I'd like to, not sure what the right way to say it is, but many of you probably saw Joe Russo passed away. I'm sure at least some of you on the call have met and known Joe, as I have. He was just a magnificent guy, promoting paddle to 94 years old. Got the whole Villages program going, salvage program in Ocean Pines from New Jersey. Just one of the nicest guys that I've ever known. So he lived a long, great life, and he was great for our sport.
Yeah, here. I got a Poland seltzer, but you're absolutely right. He was amazing for the sport.
Very generous man with his time and loved the game and helped bring it to lots and lots of people. We'll miss him.
Any other questions out there?
Yeah.
Hey, just one thought, and it's not necessarily a board level topic, but it came up at our local meeting. We have a bunch of people clamoring for tournaments against people with a similar PTI that don't count for PTI. I was just wondering if that's come up more broadly because, you got guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s who play tournaments for years. Now they're playing against these guys who are these young guys trying to come up and improve their PTI through the tournaments, which has a negative effect on their own. And so we're talking about maybe making some of our tournaments PTI entry, but non-PTI for actual impact from the tournament.
Actually, I'm glad you asked that question because that reminds me, we are hosting a call on June 20th for all league heads to talk about how every league uses, or how different leagues use PTI or don't use PTI. We have a bunch of leagues that have hidden PTI in the background that are considering turning it on. We have some that have PTI turned on that are considering turning it off. And so we want to get every league on a call together so that people who are contemplating these decisions can hear what other leagues around the country are doing and how they're using PTI as a tool. And honestly, as the APTA, it's just a tool out there for all of you to use whatever makes sense for your respective leagues. And that goes for tournament directors as well, Derek. So I would just say, if the concept of getting the right people on the court together is good, but you don't want it to count, just set up I think there have been a few tournaments that have been set up by PTI, but have not counted towards PTI, but they tend to be it's been in some smaller areas, but I don't see any reason why you can't do that. And that's really, a local decision.
As long as we did have this come up, as long as it is communicated clearly multiple times, well in advance, what counts and what doesn't, because then you get a riot on your hands. So whatever I'm
sure.
Whatever you want to do, but you got to tell people, because then you have people afterwards saying, what do you mean that didn't count? Or,
we also think the PTI ones that don't count for PTI might sell out in about 48 hours. But we have kind of a northern part and a southern part, and we usually have a set of PTIs in the north and then the same numbers in the south. So we're thinking maybe one year the north don't count and the south do, and then the next year the north count and south don't, type of thing. So I don't know, we haven't gone through it all yet, but it's just some ideas that are floated out there.
Hey, Derek, I'd add in, this is certainly something that any tournament director can do. When you set up an event, you can work with, if you're hosting the event on paddle scores, you can work with them to have it be excluded. And you can, if you're hosting it on live scoring, you can work it through with us. I participated in a tournament towards the end of the season here in Fairfield County, Connecticut, called the Wilton Open. It was probably 200 people, men and women, multiple draws. Some top tier pros played in it. And, people like me, amateurs and so forth, also participated. And the tournament directors didn't want it to count for PTI, but they did use it for seeding. Right. It's funny, at the end of the day, that we actually had some problems turning it off. And so it kind of counted for a couple of weeks and then it went away. And the reality is that, there were some upsets, there were some, but most of them, like most matches, went the way that you'd guess. And so the end result is the changes really aren't there. Right. I think the anecdote that you describe ends up being underrated people coming in and outperforming, or when you have regional disparities, and some of those will get fixed when your league PTI committee realizes that they were underrated and use that tournament to help them fix it. Yeah. Or when as the PTI committee determine that there's skew and we fix that. So it'll be a temporary bump or benefit or hurt. But most of the time, what we found from Team Nationals was it helped make good competitive matches for the most part. Wasn't perfect, but it never is. It
definitely does. I think that the issues we've seen is, I played with a friend who was coming back from an injury, so they were rusty. So we didn't play to our numbers, so our numbers got crushed even worse. Played with a friend who we have a good time, but we are a terrible we would never pair ourselves together in interclub, right? Like we just want to go have fun and play a tournament, but we're terrible together. So so we don't want to do it anymore.
I
So
think that's
hurting
great.
our,
You
know.
should go get your number beat up and then go out next season and kick ass.
Yeah, well, but we look at those same people. Like I've literally looked at the same people in interclub playing with their normal partner, and they're properly rated.
Yeah.
But when they have these weird situations in tournaments, they're like, well, what am I going to go out there and get killed by these 25-year-olds who are underrated because they're just new to the game and they're killing everybody. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know where we'll land, but we try to coordinate all our PTIs kind of at a group level so we can spread them out appropriately and schedule them so they're not kind of like this tournament director over here is just doing his own thing. We try to coordinate it for the area. So it'll be interesting to see how that discussion goes.
Look, but I will say,
like
ultimately speaking, what you're doing is awesome because you're using this tool we have to create more play and more matches, which is, you know, we talk about growing the game by growing membership, but ultimately speaking, what we have here is a nice tool to be able to set up good matches for more people than just those that have traditionally played in the national ranking tournaments. So
it'll
I think that's
also be
awesome
interesting to see. It'll also be interesting if we do it, even just as a 1-year experiment, to see what the enrollment is on the tournaments that count and the tournaments that don't.
Yep.
And see if it actually, if people care. Right. Yep. We'll find out if we do that, and I'll let you know if we go that way. So
hey, the 20th, what time is the call? The league call?
That will probably be 6 o'clock as well. And again, the topic will, you know, there are a bunch of leagues that have done surveys of their players that we want to hear from them. There's leagues considering, you know, making changes. We want to hear from them. And then, you know, we want to hear from some of the leagues that have been around that where it's worked well for them or where it hasn't worked well for them. So it's going to be, you know, very wide open, transparent discussion. You know, people can, for all leagues, anyone to comment, question, etc.
Good.
This is Regina from New Jersey. I just have one quick anecdote on the tournament. We used the PTI for order of strength for lineups and everything this year. So there was a lot of angst around the whole our use. So we're reevaluating in the process of that. But our tournament, we have a state tournament with, I think it's like 200. I'm going to say 260 ladies. The number, it filled up in 3.5 minutes. And PTI was counting for that tournament. So it didn't, even though the ladies were complaining, the tournament filled up in 3.5 minutes. I think we shut down the system. So it goes both ways. So it'll be interesting to see the tournaments that count and the tournaments that don't count, if there's any change. I just know that there's a great desire for more tournaments. And so.
Was that the first year it counted, Regina?
It was the first year he counted because we were new to it. The year we didn't require membership the year before. It was the first year.
Come talk to me in 2 or 3 years and we'll see.
Anyway, Regina brought up another good point, and Rob Scannoni's on here, but we are also investing next year in our IT infrastructure. Damien translated into English or the things that, because not me, but just so our system doesn't crash again.
Thank you.
Bob, that goes for you. I don't know where you are. Same thing, Regina. We are right, Damien. Back.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's one of our big IT budget items is to.
Thank you.
For the long run, not only does it help with things like the Ticketmaster style registration, but also it gives us some continuity, sigh of relief for the long term. To kind of build out our e-commerce system and our membership system and separate those. And so we've got a good plan in place there, and we'll be working on that mostly during the off season.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Oh, and I apologize. It was the second year that PTI counted for our state tournament. Sorry.
So they came back.
Gotcha.
They came back in. Yes.
There you go.
Anything else? Any other questions? These are great.
All right.
Yeah, I think.
Let's formally sort of concludes the call. Anybody who wants to stick around and chat, please do so. And again, Amin's Mean's got his cell phone out there. So does mine. Emails, Damien, like we all are available. We love to talk about it. John, Ann, Sheedy, everybody. We love feedback and comments, and we look forward to getting to know you all better, those of you that we don't know, and hearing from you guys. So thanks so much for joining us. I know it's a busy time, so really appreciate it.